for another Inside EC series. Today I'm with Marie. Say hi, Marie.
Hello.
On a beautiful sunny day in London here in July. And Marie, you're so multifaceted at Emerging Communications and cover a number of different roles, but what's your key role here at EC?
So my primary role is as Senior Client Services Manager. That means that I work with AMs to develop unique strategies and campaigns for our clients, primarily our inbound clients. But I also do a lot of work on education and informing brands on the latest trends and opportunities in China, whether it's writing reports or doing case studies or hosting seminars, which I particularly enjoy.
So obviously in light of post-COVID time here in London and Shanghai, we, myself and Marie, are doing a lot of webinars and masterclasses online, which has been a little bit different for us. And Marie, you speak fluent Chinese?
Yes, it's quite strange, but I've been learning Chinese for about a third of my life now. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and China has become a very big part of my life and even my family's life. I somehow managed to drag my brother and sister over to China, and they've stayed there ever since.
And they don't speak as good a Chinese as you do, I hasten to add.
Well, yeah, so I've been told.
So Marie has, for her many, many things that you've had to do, was once my Chinese teacher, but now you're luckily not. So you obviously work with our clients, you put together strategies, you've got a particular interest and expertise in the tourism market here in the UK, but also inbound Chinese audiences and segments all over the world.
Yeah.
And a big thing that Marie and I are always talking about is personas and behaviour, which brings me on to something that is a bit like the elephant in the room that we can't really ignore. So, COVID.
Yeah.
COVID-19, obviously China has recovered, consumerism is far exceeded any expectations for anybody within China, even ourselves here in the UK. But how has consumer behaviour fundamentally shifted and changed post-COVID-19 in China?
Very interesting. I mean, there are so many different facets to the changes in consumer behaviour. I don't think we could cover them all in one session. But I must say, one thing that has made me weirdly proud, I guess, as a non-Chinese yet identifies as a slightly Chinese person, is just the resilience of the Chinese consumer.
Yeah.
In a recent study done by McKinsey, there shows an overwhelming optimism. Over half of people interviewed said they were very optimistic about the current situation, and about 60% of people said they expected the country to return to their previous routines in the next 2 to 3 months, which, as someone living in London, it just, you can't imagine being that optimistic about the next quarter. And that has also shown in their spending. So obviously we've heard this term a lot, revenge spending, which partly comes from the pure confidence of the Chinese consumers in their ability to spend and their financial security. But it also comes from this renewed and strengthened sense of nationalism. So one thing we're seeing as part of revenge spending, we're not just seeing more spending, we're seeing a lot more spending and prioritising of Chinese brands. So for example, beauty and skincare are one of the brands that have done extremely well, one of the industries, that have done extremely well during the China quarantine and post-quarantine. And we've seen in certain segments, for example, colour cosmetics, Chinese brands now take up 55% of search terms on digital apps, and Perfect Diary by far dominates Little Red Book as a brand, rather than Western brands that have been established in the market far longer are lagging behind.
I think that from my standpoint, the reason that China has bounced back so quickly is inherently digitalisation.
Yeah.
And also what we call here in the UK omnichannel, which is quite an old-fashioned term.
Yeah.
So retailers being just as good at digital as they are at offline service and delivery, there isn't really a line in China. There is very much, you go and you shop in a shop in China, and if they don't have it, I can order online, I can have it delivered to a hotel, to an apartment, normally within the hour. So that whole logistics piece, that whole service piece, that all of the apps and all of the platforms essentially deriving a service to meet customer demand and expectations is there. Whereas which is not here in the UK. Retailers are really struggling here at the moment. You've got the issue around how many consumers and how many shoppers you can have in your stores. If you don't have an online method, e-commerce, cross-border, you know, a very good logistics and very good delivery, I think from my standpoint, that's one of the reasons that China has, certainly in the luxury and retail space, recovered so quickly. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. Digital, both in terms of in-market and also cross-border, has grown massively.
Yeah.
And not just digital, but also various industries within digital. So for example, JD.com, this year they had their 618 festival, and they had their most successful festival ever. And certain categories such as home appliances saw a 240% growth compared with last year. Because, you know, although people are very optimistic, it's kind of hope for the best but prepare for the worst situation.
Yeah.
So although I'm expecting to be able to go out and do what I want in the next 3 months, I'm still going to get a bigger TV, a better fridge,
better washing machine,
home gym equipment, you know, and prioritise my skincare, prioritise you know, supplements and medical products, rather than what I was doing last year and maybe being a bit more lapsadaisical about things. So I think this is a great opportunity for a lot of brands, and not just brands that were already considering China, but brands that maybe previously felt that their industries were stagnant or there wasn't enough of an opportunity in China. We're seeing growth in new areas, which is particularly interesting.
I think also, if you have a look at universities, schools, you compare that to the UK where we've all been homeschooling our children and trying to hold down a job. In China, you can literally put your child in front of a screen and woe betide they don't do their homework, woe betide they don't actually concentrate, and they are taught for the entire school day. It's a very, very, very different situation where the technology was there. Everybody's use of technology has been there for some time, for many, many years. And I think it would be very interesting to see, and I'm always looking ahead at China going, wow, what a brilliant idea, when are we going to adopt that in the UK?
Yeah.
Which brings me on to probably the most important shift from our standpoint as a marketing consultancy and agency, social media.
Yeah.
So how has that changed in light of COVID recovery in China, in terms of platforms used, in terms of format, in terms of consumer behaviour online?
Again, this is a topic that could be a webinar all on its own. And in fact,
week.
it is going to be a webinar on its own because we're doing a webinar about this next week. So I'll just give it a few brief examples. One thing I've really liked that China has done really well is to word it the best way I can, the democratization of social media and of brand ownership. So for example, in China, when everything shut down, when retail stores shut down, it wasn't a case of retailers saying, well, the store shut down, you know, there's nothing we can do for the next 2 months. The store shut down, but the sale assistants took ownership for the sales of the store, and they were doing their own live streams on their personal social media accounts, and they were driving sales via social media, representing the brand as an employee of the brand in such a way that I think would be very difficult for European brands to adopt here, because, you know, there's so much more safeguarding around brands, and there'd be so much more red tape to get through in terms of content creation. Whereas in China, it was, you know, agility wins. If we can do something and we can do it fast, then it's better to do it than to not do it. And, you know, there will be some consequences, and some people who will be better at content than others. But you know, if it's a chance to make sales, then they'd rather give that power to the people who can make sales than wait for retail to reopen. like a lot of countries in Europe have done. And I think another thing is platforms have been changing for the better. So Weibo, for example, they are being a lot more careful with their external links. So for example, they now have a whitelist policy. If you're not on their whitelist, then you cannot post external links, regardless if that's a JD link or if that's an overseas own brand website link. You need to verify your Weibo account and go through their application process in order to advertise. But that means that brands that are serious and brands that are trustworthy are going to be the only brands that are allowed to advertise on Weibo, which gives it a lot more authenticity and a lot more reliability. And another positive change that Weibo has made, they're now beginning to roll out a new kind of ad which crosses with WeChat mini programs. So you can advertise your WeChat mini program on Weibo, which for Western marketers that might not seem like a big deal.
It's a massive deal.
As you know, working with China, social media giants are incredibly territorial.
It's never been allowed before.
Exactly.
They're two massive media giants that don't tend to like each other very much.
Exactly. The protectionism in China around social media channels is nothing like what we have here in the West. And part of what we do here at EC is helping people navigate and create their own landscape so that they can get coverage regardless of social media channels. So having this opportunity for cross-pollination of traffic, it opens up a lot of opportunities. And I think especially for small brands and brands that are new to China, which would find WeChat pretty costly and very slow to grow, having the ability to drive through Weibo, which is a mass exposure channel, is really, really interesting. And I think there could be some really good case studies coming out of that.
Absolutely. And I think from my standpoint, from social media, video has always been really important in China, but I think more so now than ever.
Yeah.
We've seen things that we've never seen before here in the UK. We've seen very expensive apartments worth over £2-3 million being sold entirely on live streams from agents and from developers.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen universities offering courses here in the UK for the first time to Chinese students. So essentially we are becoming not like China, but we are starting to adopt some of that technology.
Yeah.
Video is absolutely crucial, I think, now to marketing generally, because whereas some of our brands have historically not really used video as a way of communicating, a lot of our brands have never worked from home. We've always had a flexibility here where we all work at home a couple of days a week, so nothing's really changed. There was no real business interruption, much the same way actually for those working at home in China, whereas a lot of the brands I spoke to didn't even have a laptop. So I think that it's been a very interesting journey for us here in the UK. And when we compare that to how things were done in China, you're absolutely right. You saw a lot of individual sales teams and sales individuals taking to live streaming, using their own personal WeChat accounts and corporate accounts to take the sales journey offline. So essentially doing what they were doing anyway, but looping out the whole environment that they were not allowed in, which was retail, which were in a very strict lock-in. Really, really interesting. So in terms of British brands now, opportunities and threats in light of post-COVID, we're obviously not seeing the revenge spending here that we're seeing in China. There is a demand for cross-border that an awful lot of brands haven't capitalised on because they don't have that functionality, something I'm talking about later in the month in a webinar, so cross-border on WeChat. So just a couple of bits of advice for kind of opportunities and threats as you see it for brands here in the UK now to capitalise on what opportunities there are in China.
I would say one thing is definitely to move.
Speed.
It doesn't have to be perfect, whether that's live streaming, WeChat mini programs, cross-border sales. We tend to wait and try and make everything perfect in China. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. It's not the big eats the small in China, it's the fast eats the slow. And where there are a lot of opportunities in China, especially in the industries that are seeing unprecedented amounts of growth, that won't last forever. You know, people's demand for certain products and certain appliances is going to be at a record high for the next 6, 12, 18 months, but it's not going to last forever. And also Chinese companies are going to be looking at these trends and capitalizing on it. So if you don't move to get into the market, you could find the new space that's been created gets filled up quite quickly, or quicker than expected. And another thing I would say, if you're a luxury brand that, you know, has a lot of interest invested in long-term brand equity and brand safeguarding, then this is a time that you really need to keep your eyes and ears to the ground in China.
Yeah.
Because a lot of sales representatives, Daigou, you know, even consumers that are looking to make money on commission sales or make money through home business startups, they're taking to platforms and creating their own content regardless of brand guidelines and things like that. And it's very easy for brands who aren't on the ground in China or who aren't aware at a corporate level what's being published in China to run away with themselves without people over here knowing what's going on. And the third thing I would say is definitely keep a very close eye on channel changes. So just to name an example, the Weibo whitelist is something that should be a high priority for every brand in China. Golden Week is just around the corner, which is a huge shopping opportunity, whether cross-border, inbound, or in China. There's still going to be a lot of travelling and a lot of shopping being done. And if you don't have the ability to post your own brand links on Weibo at a time when a lot of people are looking for shopping inspiration and a lot of KOLs are promoting affiliate links, then that is going to be a big problem. So if you don't keep your eye on what's happening on Little Red Book, Douyin, Weibo and WeChat, it could be a missed opportunity when it comes to launching your campaign.
I think, absolutely, I think the crucial thing here is speed.
Yeah.
I think that there is a real sentiment and a real culture here in the UK of getting things 100% right.
Yeah.
If you're going to crack the Chinese market, you need to be 80% right, but you need to be strategic about it, targeted about it, relevant, resonating, use good stories, use video, use the right platforms, all of those things that we talk about. But it's speed, it's agility, and it's also being able to compete on a global stage. All too often we talk to brands who are all about competing in Europe. Oh, well, I'm this in Europe, Domenica. Well, that's not where you are in China. You're competing with Australia and America. You're competing with local brands, Hong Kongese, Chinese brands, Taiwanese brands. You need to compete on a global stage and be very, very honest as a brand. Can you compete? And if you can, get there quickly.
Yeah.
While we are in a situation of massive growth, a massive almost catch-up, and then it will settle down. By which time somebody's already going to be a brand advocate within your category. Yeah. And by that time it's going to be much, much harder to get some traction.
I agree. And I think as well, for a lot of brands, there used to be almost a lazy man's way to enter into China, where, like you said, you say, I am this in Europe, therefore I can tell Chinese people this is what I am in Europe, and use that as a selling point. But for a lot of sophisticated Chinese consumers nowadays, firstly, that's not enough. Secondly, that's not particularly interesting. There's a lot of brands that are all saying the same thing or claiming the same thing. Thirdly, you know, their priorities are changing. So priorities are about hygiene, convenience, you know, nationalism, nationalistic sentiment, and keeping up with the latest trends. And if you can't do that as a brand, then you're going to be at a disadvantage. And in order to do that, you need to have the knowledge and the up-to-date insights so that you can then tailor your products and your services to suit what's currently in demand.
Thank you so much, Marie. So Marie and I, next week, we are going to be doing a webinar together on introduction of the main Chinese social media channels. We're then going on to create a series where we will cover each of those channels in a lot more depth. I'm also going to be doing a webinar with a partner, and we are going to be talking about cross-border e-commerce on WeChat, as well as many other bits of content. So thank you very much for watching today. Marie, thank you as ever.
Oh, I love it.
And have a good day, everybody, and stay safe.
The ending part.
Yeah.
subscribe our channel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. You could just use.
We're not a proper YouTuber, you see.
No. Okay. To have access to our content, such as this video, webinars, vlogs, podcasts, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow me on LinkedIn, and we're always posting insights and trends and news from China. And stay safe.